In the village of Granville Norton, someone in a beekeeper outfit is murdering people. Who will be the next to get stung? Get it? We're talking about more justified murders.
The history of beekeeping.
And all those damn bee puns on this episode of
Welcome to Midsomer.
Hello, and welcome to Midsomer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long-running hit TV show Midsomer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Eileen Becker. Hey, Eileen.
Hi, Eric. Today we're talking about The Sting of Death, the third episode of the 21st series. It originally aired December 1st, 2019 in the US and March 21st, 2021 in the UK. It was directed by Matt Carter and written by Julia Gilbert. Let's get buzzing.
Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched yet and don't want to know who done it, pause this and go watch it. We will still be here when you get back.
And to end Brahmary, be breathing, to induce a sense of calm and well-being. Place your index finger in the cartilage of your ear. Press. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth, making the sound of the honeybee.
It's night at Apley Court, the large manor house in the village of Granville Norton. Ambrose Deddington returns home from a date with local doctor Sarita Lowe, both being secretly observed by someone with a big camera. After a good night smooch, he enters the manor and sees someone in a beekeeper outfit attacking his hives of bees in the yard. He rushes out and chases them into a hedge maze, but tables get turned and Ambrose is knocked unconscious. The next day, Barnaby and Winter are called to the scene of the assault and attempted bee heist. Ambrose and his sister live together in the manor and are the owners of Apley's Gold, a best-selling honey whose big claim to fame is that Ambrose used its medicinal properties to cure himself from cancer years ago. The honey is now a must-have homeopathic treatment for many cancer patients. Needless to say, Ambrose really loves those bees, and since the decline of bee populations around the world, his are a hot commodity. During Ambrose's cancer battle, Tamara moved into the manor with him, both of them dedicating their lives to each other and the honey. Which seems pretty normal by Midsomer standards. Although Tamara isn't quite aware about Ambrose's relationship with the doctor. Ambrose is quick to point the finger at his nephew Jude, who apparently wanted to modernize the operation, which Ambrose was against, so he banished Jude and his unstable mother, Ambrose's other sister, to a nearby farm. Jude and his partner Cyrus operate a meadery there, and were hoping that Ambrose would invest in their product, but no dice. Jude wants his and Ambrose's bees to cross-pollinate to help propagate the bee species and the human species. But Ambrose is big on keeping his bees pure, which, yeah, we all know what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Also, Jude's mother was promised by her parents before they passed that if she could stay off drugs, she would have a house. However, Ambrose, the first male of the family and thus the designated heir, ignored their wishes, and the dower house now belongs to local journalist and gay widower Cal Ingalls. And I say that because that's how he described himself several times. Jude and Cyrus both claim they were in the meadery the night of the attack, but it doesn't seem quite true. Cyrus gets an alert that the missing bees are close to the doctor's office, and he goes to collect them. However, they are in a high tree out of his reach, so he plans to spend all night watching them. Meanwhile, Dr. Lowe meets with Reverend Nigel Brookthorpe, who is in need of comfort since being turned down for the local bishop position. The Reverend misreads her comfort for something more and attempts to bring her the doctor flowers, but when he sees her in a strange position with yoga instructor Noah Moon, he angrily throws the flowers into the trash. Then Lowe finds local cleaner Linda Babbage going through her purse and attempts to fire her, but Linda threatens her with some unknown info. The next morning, the milkman walks past the office and finds the doctor dead, covered in bees. Barnaby and Winter find the doctor's office has been broken into, and it had been broken into a few weeks ago too, in what was assumed to be a drug theft. Coroner Fleur tells them it is too early to say what killed the doctor. Ambrose is shocked at her death. They were planning to have a family, which meant Jude would have lost his status as next in line to inherit. His sister might have resented no longer being Queen Bee, too. It's Speaking of Tamara, she's over at the Hive, her mix of spa, wellness center, yoga studio, and coffee house. Noah teaches a class and attracts the interest of a number of women, and Cal, but he's making out with Tamara in the back room. Cal finds Jude's mother in his home, brandishing a knife, and calls Jude to come get her, forcing him to leave his long-suffering girlfriend, Hannah. Hannah is the Reverend's daughter, just back from a long trip. She gets her old job back at the Hive and tells Noah that he can hold a yoga class in her dad's church to help get more people there. Her relationship with her dad is estranged due to his anger and her choice of boyfriend. Fleur tells the detectives that a doctor was knocked out by an object that left a hexagon-shaped wound, and then the bees were lured to swarm and sting her to death, which makes it a premeditated murder. We see the killer blow out a candle marked Doctor and light a candle marked Deceiver. Who is their next target? Tourist info. This is our only stop in the village of Granville Norton, known for its many bee businesses, as well as the annual Deddington Solstice Soiree. Be sure to bring your EpiPen in case you get stung. Nope, you will get stung.
Probably by a bad pun.
This is a very convoluted episode. A lot of little who's that doing this with what. Trying to write out a recap was very long when you actually realize not a lot actually happens in this episode. In fact, it feels like everything and nothing happened at the same time. It took 20 minutes for the murder. Now, I know we talk a lot about them breaking the format, but this just seemed meandering.
Yeah, it did kind of meander a bit at the beginning.
And of course, it's all bees and bee references. I like that we start with Winter informing Barnaby about an attempted bee heist, but it wasn't the first.
I mean, if there's a spate of bee heists going on, that's just weird. And that actually is never resolved. Who's doing all those other bee heists?
And it's like, this time with violence. And Barnaby's proper response is, this is not a part of my job description.
Yeah, he's not the bee heist investigator or the bee whisperer or any of that kind of stuff. And he seems a little, and for good reason, afraid of bees. So
Granville Norton, I did love there's a point at the beginning where it's like where they describe I think it's Barnaby is describing the village. The village revolves around bees and honey, and Winter goes, "How did that happen?" And my response was, "This is what I've been saying."
It's one of those things where, especially in recent seasons, they have really focused on a whole village getting involved in one little thing, whether it's the beekeeping or the dominoes tournament or whatever it was, or it just, there seems to be a village obsession that the entire village revolves around.
I know it's different than a village fete, right? It's different than like, oh, this is our gardening spectacular or whatever. These are things that are happening. It's very weird that these villages all seem to organize around a job or hobby.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I feel it's almost like in the world of the internet, a bunch of people on a chat room said, "Oh, here's a good village that we could go suicide prep at." Or not suicide prep, what is survival prep?
Survival prep, yeah.
And here's a good village where we can go raise bees.
Now, Ambrose does love his bees, as does Cyrus, and I have to say, Cyrus seems very authentically in love with his bees, and Ambrose does too. We have talked about, and actually the very first episode on the killings at Badger's Drift, about telling the bees when someone dies, which is a real thing.
Ambrose does it several times in this episode.
Yes. Now, the beekeeper from the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, when she passed away, did tell them, the bees, that she had passed away, that their mistress was gone, but that they have a new master, King Charles III. I think he probably swarmed. Left out the part.
They probably swarmed at that point.
Yeah. Probably left off about Camilla. I can't imagine the bees liking Camilla too much, but
it's a lot of hive descriptions in here. Tamara the queen bee. Ambrose calls Jude a drone at one point. Cyrus is very clearly a drone.
Yeah.
With delusions of grandeur. There are so many bee references. So,
Yeah.
number one, I kind of love that there was an app called Swarm Protect
Yeah.
to let you know when the bees are coming. I was like, did you look and see if there was an app for that?
I actually didn't. I should have.
I didn't either, because I didn't want to know. But you got the sound of the honeybee in Noah's yoga class.
Yeah.
At one point, they play Swarm of the Bumblebees. Betty is dressed as a bee.
Yeah, it's Flight of the Bumblebee. Yeah.
Flight of the Bumblebees.
Yeah.
My personal favorite was at the very beginning when they pull up in the yellow VW Bug.
Yeah.
Which, if you ever watched the Transformers, that was the character Bumblebee turned into a yellow VW Bug.
You just love a good Transformer reference.
It was so weird, but it's like I can't believe it was accidental. Everything was quite, there's so many. I'm sure there's tons we missed. Like, I'm sure if we went through this with a fine-tooth comb, we'd find another 20 little bee jokes, inside jokes, references. There was a point to all that.
Yeah.
And of course, you get the hive.
Mm-hmm.
Were you like me, and like when they first started going there, you're like, what is this place, and what is its purpose?
You haven't been at a whole lot of weird little small town shops, have you?
But it's not a shop. It's a wellness center. It's a spa. They have yoga classes. There's a food and coffee.
You haven't been in a whole lot of small towns.
No.
Those things are. I mean, I've got that in my hometown. It's not called the Hive, and what is the name? The Wellness Center.
That's what they call it?
They call it the Wellness Center. Yeah. Then they have groceries there. I have bought things there. They do the CBD oil. They have classes and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, this is David Rose's shop from Schitt's Creek.
It is. But a little more new agey and with the classes.
I like that. I like when Hannah goes in for her job and they're like, "It's crazy busy," and I'm looking around going, "When? When is it crazy busy?"
Well, when you only have one other employee other than the owner.
So part of the plot centers around Ambrose and Tamara's relationship that they have dedicated. So when Ambrose had cancer, Tamara moved in, and they apparently made some kind of vow to live a life together, but clearly not. What do you so the question was like, they live like man and wife, but they weren't incestuous, or were they?
Yeah.
We don't really find out. I mean, it's Midsomer, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities.
In fact, the fact that Linda had trouble finding any incestuous relationships in the family was very non-Midsomer. Midsomer is known for its incest. It's on their Chamber of Commerce materials. You can have incest here. We're fine with it. Just don't murder anybody. Well, okay, maybe you can murder somebody. We're okay with that too. It's part of our charm.
Yeah. Although I have to say, is like when Winter was shocked, it's like, it's weird that they would live like a man and wife. And I'm like, how? You're not from here, are you?
I think even Dan Scott caught on to that before Winter did.
So I have a question. I noticed this at the top. I don't know. Did you notice? So when the very beginning, when the VW Bug drives into Apley Court, and Ambrose comes out, it's very clear we do not get. Not only do we not get to see who's driving it, which makes me think, is this supposed to be a wider mystery? Like, what is the big deal about this?
Yeah.
But the driver is wearing very thick gloves.
Yes. And this is because, and I know they do film these not in the time that they are set, but still, it is set at Midsomer, at the solstice. So it's in June. And I mean, the evenings can be cool in England.
But they looked like beekeeper gloves.
They did look, they were thick. Yeah. And I know it was just to kind of hide who it was. But
why? Because we found out 10 minutes later.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of a mystery that was not really a mystery. Yeah.
It was so weird and pointless.
Yeah.
I was just like, because I saw that like right off the bat. It's like, oh, they're really trying to hide who the driver is. This must be important.
Mhm.
10 minutes later, oh, that wasn't important at all.
Yeah.
Also, in the scene where the doctor confronts Linda,
Mm-hmm.
and Linda looks at the doctor, and who is a black woman,
Mm-hmm.
and she says, "People like you." I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, no. No.
But someone like Linda would say that.
Yeah, it's still, and we know, like, from what we find out in the second half of why she says it, it sounds incredibly racist.
Yeah. But one of the things that I think they acknowledge in this that they don't always acknowledge, Cal does say that he is a black gay widower and how hard that is to be in a small town. And so he does acknowledge that the race part is still an issue, as well as his being gay. I know that obviously the gay part is an issue with the Reverend, who is black, because he opposes his Pride Month celebrations. But, there are probably a few more people like Linda saying things, those little microaggressions.
That was just straight up. That's not a micro.
Well, yeah, that wasn't a micro. That was pretty macro.
pretty much straight up.
Yeah.
Even though, again, probably it's very clear that's not what she meant.
Mm-hmm.
But it just did not sound good.
Yeah.
Obviously, since this episode takes place in the world of beekeeping, Eileen, well, you take us to the history of beekeeping in your History Corner.
All right. Beekeeping is also known as apiculture, and it started somewhere around 8000 BCE during the first agricultural revolution, also known as the Neolithic Revolution, that took place in several parts of the world, including the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East, the Yangtze and Yellow River basins of China, the Papua New Guinea highlands, central Mexico, northwestern South America, parts of sub-Saharan Africa, and parts of eastern North America around the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. This period started around 11,000 years ago and involved the domestication of cereal grasses such as barley and wheat, and animals such as dogs, sheep, goats, cows, and pigs. This agricultural revolution spread throughout all populated continents and changed human life drastically as humans moved from nomadic hunter-gatherers to settled communities, first on a small scale and eventually into larger cities with more structured social hierarchies, permanent buildings, and traffic congestion. Beekeeping developed alongside the domestication of crops. Bees were and remain crucial pollinators, and beeswax and honey became important parts of many local economies. Initially, humans attempted to maintain wild bee colonies by setting up places that would entice bees to use as hives, such as hollow logs, boxes, and vessels made from straw or pottery. Art in several ancient cultures, including that of Egypt, depict humans gathering honey from wild beehives or later from domesticated ones. Honey was eventually stored in jars, and these have been found in several ancient tombs, including that of King Tutankhamun. Aristotle wrote about beekeeping and the lives of bees, and apiculture was documented by several Roman writers such as Virgil. In ancient China, a book written by Fan Li stressed the importance of the quality of the wooden box used for the hives on the quality of the honey. The Maya domesticated a stingless bee, which they used for a mead-like beverage. People in Asia, Africa, and Europe were using the honeybee, a bee that produces more honey than other species. It's unknown when beekeeping was introduced to the British Isles, but it was possible that it was during this first agricultural revolution as the practice moved throughout Europe. The western honeybee has become the dominant species for apiculture and was imported to the Americas by the early European colonial settlers. Honey has been used as a sweetener and unguent from its earliest days of harvesting, and was ascribed to the gods as food and drink in ancient Greece. It was essential to ancient Egyptian religious practices and civilization. The Bible promises a land of milk and honey to the Israelites as they wandered in the desert. It's common in many religious practices around the world, and the Quran describes it as a nutritious food with healing properties. It has antibacterial properties and can seal and heal a wound. Among its other uses, honey was soon fermented into mead, a naturally fermenting alcoholic beverage made with honey and water and sometimes other flavorings. Beeswax has been used for seals, writing tablets, cosmetics, in sewing, and to make candles. Beeswax candles were considered pure light and used in churches, so monks often kept bees. Harvesting the honey involved destroying the entire colony, as hives were removed and crushed along with everything attached to it, including eggs and larvae. In Greece, a movable comb was developed, with the oldest evidence of this from 1669, though it's possible the practice is more than 3,000 years old. This eventually led to the development of the Langstroth hive, the familiar box with hanging frames, by American apiarist Lorenzo Lorraine Langstroth, the father of American beekeeping. This was the culmination of centuries of scientific study of bees, and the basic structure has been adapted in apiculture all over the world. Smokers using natural fuels are used to calm bees before harvesting the wax and honey, a practice with ancient origins, and protective clothing is often worn to prevent bee stings. As beekeeping became more corporatized, a natural beekeeping movement rose up along with urban and backyard beekeeping movements. Disappearance of honeybees has happened at certain times in history, and no one knows why. What came to be called colony collapse disorder started around 1998 in southern and western Europe and in 2006 in the U.S., though the managed hive industry in the U.S. has been shrinking since the 1960s. Colony collapse then affected some African and Asian countries as well, though the growth of apiculture in China has meant that the population of honeybees is at its largest than at any other point in history. Still, the collapse of colonies in the U.S. and Europe has led to higher food prices as farmers are reliant on the bees as crop pollinators. There is no identified cause for the colony collapse, as the hives are generally filled with honey, which is their food, and the queen remains with a few nurser bees. No massive piles of bee corpses are around. It's just as if all the other bees have disappeared. It's a mystery worthy of the Midsomer constabulary, or maybe a bunch of scientists.
Thank you for that interesting history of beekeeping, Eileen. That sounded so morning DJ. Let's go into cast highlights. Imogen Stubbs was jealous drunk Tamara Dennington. Now, she graduated from RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, the same year as Jane Horrock from Ab Fab fame and Ian Glenn of Game of Thrones. She's a celebrated stage actress and playwright, best known on stage for her Desdemona in Trevor Nunn's famous production of Othello. On screen, she's appeared in Sense and Sensibility, Twelfth Night, Eric the Viking, and most recently in The Crown.
Didn't she play Camilla in the Crown?
I don't remember. Jack Fox was mead maker Jude Deddington. Yes, he's another one of the Fox family who have appeared in several episodes of Midsomer Murders. Jack has appeared in Mr. Selfridge, Fresh Meat, The Messenger, Riviera, and Sanditon. He made his West End debut in 2015 in a play called Dear Lupin. He performed with his father, James Fox, who we talked about in our episode Masterclass. Brian Dick played Quiet Cyrus Babbage. Dick had a big break when he was 14 years old, cast in The Life and Times of Henry Pratt, playing the young version of the title character. He's appeared in Wolf Hall, White Teeth, Capital, Eric and Ernie, and Master and Commander. Wendy Peters was bitter Linda Babbage. Now, on stage, she's been in Into the Woods, Noises Off, The Game, Guys and Dolls, and The Scarlet Pimpernel. On screen, she's best known for playing Celia Battersby Brown on Coronation Street. She was a very popular villain on that show, and even got to appear in a straight-to-DVD Coronation Street movie set in Africa. She's also appeared in the show Heady Feathers, and most recently in Doctors. Jaquetta May was Shakespeare-quoting Melissa Deddington. She's not just an actress, she's also a director and a TV writer who also founded the Plainclothes Productions Theater Company. On stage, she's appeared in Lady Chatterley's Lover, The Comedy of Errors, and Educating Rita. On screen, she was in Get Real, Cardiac Arrest, and the new show Ridley. She wrote for Torchwood, New Tricks, and an adaptation of Erica Jong's Fear of Flying. Ben Starr was kind of douchey, Noah Moon. His first role was on Father Brown, followed by appearances in Dickensian, Jamestown, Death in Paradise, and the most recent Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy XVI. Fun fact, when he was a student at the University of Durham, he was secretary of the Gerbil Breeding Society.
I can't decide if I love that or if I just find that creepy.
Try Googling Gerbil Breeding Society like I did, and you'll decide. Derek Griffiths played the very angry Reverend Nigel Brookthorpe. Griffiths is an actor, singer, and musician with a long history in children's television. He appeared in the shows Super Ted, Film Fun, and Play School. On stage, he originated the role of Lumiere in the London production of Beauty and the Beast, and in the most recent onstage version of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, he played the child catcher. Most recently on screen, he was in the Small Axe series of films and a season of Unforgotten. Nina Toussaint White was object of jealousy Hannah Brookthorpe. She starred in the shows Switch, Game Face, Bodyguard, and The Feed, as well as the movie Kandahar. Most recently, she's appeared in Shetland. Renee Castle played our B-covered Dr. Serena Lowe. She's a character actress who's appeared in the reboot of Kojak, Blood Drive, Bodyguard, The Worst Witch, and Homeland. And Aaron Anthony was the out and proud Cal Ingalls. His longest role is in the soap Emmerdale Farms, where he played the character Ellis Chapman. You might also have seen him in Delicious, Behind Her Eyes, and The Pact.
There were no return visitors in the main cast, but we had quite a few return visitors as uncredited extras. Many of them are veterans of multiple episodes. So we want to give a shout out to Pete Meads, Mick Slaney, June Smith, Vic Waghorn, and of course, the mayor of Midsomer, Chris Wilson. Thank you for always making Midsomer feel alive. Now, our village star this time is Griff Rhys-Jones, who played Guy Who Loves Bees a Little Too Much, Ambrose Deddington. He's best known for his decades of comedy work, first on Not the 9 O'Clock News, and then on Alas Smith and Jones with Mel Smith. He and Smith had a long career writing and performing together, even introducing Queen at Live Aid. Not the Queen, but the band Queen. They started a production company called Talkback Productions, which produced classic comedy shows like Smack the Pony, Da Ali G Show, and I'm Alan Partridge. Rhys-Jones is a two-time Olivier Award winner for Best Comedy Performance for 1984's Charlie's Aunt and 1994's An Absolute Turkey. He also does a lot of documentary work, as well as environmental activism and conservation work. Most recently, he appeared in Gangsta Granny Strikes Again, the sequel to Gangsta Granny, of course.
I thought he was great. He played sort of the pompous bee lover well. Not really sure what the doctor saw in him, but
he is a bit of he does the pompous jerk quite well. But there's also, he does give those scenes with the bees, when he's talking to the bees, there's a lot of emotion to him. He really sells those scenes well.
I mean, he's more emotional about the bees than the doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what kind of where where his love really is.
And it really is, you can't overstate enough how much Rhys-Jones has played a part in modern British comedy. You know, those shows like Smack the Pony and Dally G Show, I'm Alan Partridge is like its own little institution. But there's a lot of other shows that he has played a part in. You know, he is definitely, you have to say, is one of the most influential figures in modern British comedy. Just in not just his performances, but in what he has helped usher.
Yeah, I know a lot of Midsomer fans watch a lot of other mysteries, British mysteries, but they don't always watch a lot of other British comedies, and that is something that I've also feel like is something that I've neglected. So I really want to get caught up on some of these great British comedies beyond Monty Python.
Yeah, and he also had a very long career working with Mel Smith until Mel Smith passed away, I believe, in the 90s. For most American viewers, you probably think you don't know Mel Smith. And when I say he's the albino in The Princess Bride,
yes,
you now instantly know who he is.
Yes.
So that's the first half. We are going to take a quick break and be back with the second half of The Sting of Death. And we're back. Let's talk about part 2 of The Sting of Death.
My house shall be called a house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast them all out.
Dad, stop this. You're not well.
I'm perfectly well. You're the ones who are sick, especially you. It's okay. Calm down. You bring questionable Eastern practices into the house of God,
under the eyes of his son Jesus, and you expect me to be calm.
Let go of your anger, Nigel, or you'll be punished by it.
Don't you dare quote your yogi gobbledygook to me. Get out.
Sarah Barnaby wants John to be more flexible, or at least be able to touch his toes. So she makes him join her at Noah's yoga class at the church. Turns out Sarah is a regular student of Noah's, and he likes to pay close attention to what she is doing. He also pays close attention to Hannah, which pisses off Tamara. In the middle of class, the Reverend arrives and verbally attacks both Noah and yoga in general. Turns out he's feeling very bitter at life and at himself. He calls himself an old fool for being attracted to the doctor, who is much younger. Winter heads over to the Meadery, I feel dirty every time I say it, and discovers a dark room full of photos of the Deddingtons, the doctor, and other people. This is clearly the workshop of the mysterious photographer we've seen haunting the area. Although Cyrus claims the photos are his, it doesn't take long for them to discover the real photographer is his mom, Linda. She's keeping track of the Deddingtons to discover proof of incest, which would invalidate their claim on Apley Court. Linda's family has long worked for them, and she claims her great-grandmother was impregnated by a Deddington, which would make Cyrus the real next in line. But there's no real proof of incest in this Midsomer family, which almost makes them deserve a medal. Tamara, angry at Ambrose's deception about the doctor, tells him that she wants Noah to move in because they love each other. Ambrose scoffs, as he probably should, because Noah is making out with Cal after Cal offers him some space at the house to do yoga classes. Later on that night, Cal is on the phone telling someone he is tired of covering up something just before the beekeeper killer comes up behind him. The next morning, Tamara and Noah find him dead, covered in beeswax, hanging in the makeshift yoga space. The killer lights the next candle. For the devil. That's probably Ambrose, as he finds a threatening note in his hive. Fleur finds another hexagon wound in Cal's head and tells them that Cal was given an overdose of pure bee venom, which killed him. You know who has bee venom? Ambrose. He sells it as a treatment to cancer patients and had a dose at the doctor's office, which was stolen. Tamara is jealous of the attention Noah gives Hannah, so she tricks Hannah into trying a hot honey mask, intending to burn Hannah's face. Luckily, Jude and Winter show up in time to stop her and not arrest her. Tamara claims Hannah is having an affair with Noah, which Hannah denies, but Jude seems to think is possible because he's a terrible boyfriend. Meanwhile, Noah tries talking to the Rev, who attempts to hit him with a candlestick, calling him the devil before Hannah stops him. Barnaby learns that Ambrose gave the dower house to Cal's dead husband, who had been his oncologist. He also runs into Jude's mom, who is frantic and warns him that the Hornet is always thirsty. Realizing that Noah, unlike anyone else in the whole wide world, is always drinking water, John looks at the water bottle Noah is always carrying and sees a hexagon shape on the bottom which matches the wounds. A quick call to Winter gets the information that Noah's last name is really Lister and that his mother died from cancer. She had apparently tried to fight it using Ambrose's honey and venom, but it did not work. Winter makes a trip to Noah's weird home and finds the candles we've been seeing, as well as the beekeeper outfit and Ambrose's medical records from the doctor's office. This is where we get the reveal. Ambrose never had cancer. It was originally a false positive test, and by the time the mistake was covered, he had already been making millions from his bee venom business. So Ambrose, Lowe, and the oncologist all covered it up. Ambrose paid off the oncologist with the house, and Lowe got the short end of the stick with Ambrose having a relationship with her. Noah discovered all of this and is out for revenge. At the manor, Ambrose is missing the solstice ceremony for the honey and the bees. Tamara finds a note that she has to read or else Ambrose dies. She reads it in front of everyone and the detectives, and it says that Ambrose is a fraud and he has killed people with his lies and brought shame to the Deddington name. And the bees. From something in the letter, Barnaby realizes that Noah has taken Ambrose to the original Deddington Stone beehive where all the ancestors have been embalmed in honey. They race over and manage to free Ambrose before he is drowned in honey, but Noah locks them in and tries to escape. He manages to set off a bee swarm, and the bees try to kill him, but Cyrus shows up and fogs the bees, saving him. Noah says he originally attacked the beehives for revenge. He broke into the doctor's office twice, first to get the records, and second to kill the doctor and get the venom. He liked Cal, but when he learned that Cal had known about his husband's cover-up, he had to die. In the end, Ambrose is arrested for his part in fraud, handing over the Deddington scepter to Cyrus. The bees go silent, apparently grieving for their master.
As bees do.
Do they? Or is that just something they said on the show? Is that a real thing?
I don't know if they really do or not. I just know that it's traditional to go and tell the bees that certain people have died, like the queen.
Listeners, if you know that bees go silent to grieve for their master, please email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. Yes, we could probably look it up, but hey, we're not going to bother. So our strange kill this week, I'm going to have to chalk it up to the bee venom and covered in beeswax. I think that was probably the strange kill of this week.
Yeah.
Getting covered in bees was kind of bad, but once you see that beeswax, that was kind of weird. And also, how many candles did he light on top of him?
That was like the entire supply of that shop's candles.
That's a ton of candles.
Yeah. Those were particularly vicious murders, though. But they also made very striking visually for a TV show, and I think the cameramen really had a good time filming those.
Oh yeah.
And can I just give a shout out to the bee wrangler in this show? Excellent job, guy. Excellent.
Although, like all the swarms and stuff like that were just CGI, right?
Were they? Were they
Probably.
really?
Probably. In your opinion, would you rather be covered in beeswax or covered in black goo?
I think the beeswax. The black goo just felt gooey and sticky, and at least beeswax has a nice, comforting feel to it.
All right, psycho killers, you've heard the challenge. Speaking of psycho killers, let's talk Noah. Was he justified?
I think there was you understand his reasons for it, and you see why. But for me, I think it would have been worse for him to actually publicly expose these people as frauds and not kill them. Killing them it seems too easy for them. I mean, if they were perpetrating a fraud of this scale, they should have faced some consequences like Ambrose is going to do.
Well, hopefully Ambrose is going to do. But I mean, technically, Noah prevented because his mother was probably not the only person who did Ambrose's, bee. Like if they're really selling millions of dollars worth of honey and bee venom to help as a homeopathic treatment for cancer patients who are then dying from it, like Noah may be a psychopath. But Ambrose and the doctor and the oncologist are sociopaths.
Yeah.
Because they killed way more than Noah.
Yeah. But still, I think that exposing them while they were alive would have been a better fate for them.
Probably.
Yeah.
Also, how did he hit people to get that perfect hexagon wound?
That's a really weird way to hit people with the bottom of that thingy, the water bottle. I think, normally people would have hit it with like the side of it.
Well, I think he did, and there's no way you're swinging it, like, you'd have to swing it straight on, as opposed to, like, down.
Yeah.
You can't get the leverage or the strength to knock somebody out with that thing.
Yeah.
It was definitely, the bottle itself should have been a hexagon.
And to be honest, that bottle was probably sold at the Hive shop, so there are probably tons of them all over Midsomer.
Can we also just point out the scene where Noah drinks the water from that bottle?
Mm-hmm.
He did it so slowly and sensuously that it gave me like major ick. As also the way he touched everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. He was one of those touchy-feely people that kind of gives you a little icky feeling.
I loved his statement, all actions have consequences and you brought this on yourselves. I did like that.
Yeah. But now he's facing his consequences too. Yeah.
Oh, all actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And the other thing I noticed, he really used sex as a manipulative weapon in a way we don't normally see on this show.
No. Yeah.
He was a femme fatale.
Yeah. He was. That was really, when you see what he's doing, he is seducing his victims before he kills them.
And keeping them off kilter, like flirting with Sarah to confuse the detective, flirting with Hannah to manipulate Tamara, smooching. Like, I'm assuming he and Cal had sex.
Yeah.
It's never really implied, but I'm kind of assuming.
Yeah.
I was kind of okay with him drowning Ambrose in honey. But don't you think it would have been smarter if he had, like, he was going to kill him anyway, right? Like, whether or not she read the note or not, shouldn't he have just drowned him immediately?
Yeah. Yeah. But I did like his progression of using, the bees and to attack the doctor, and then the beeswax to smother Cal, and then finally the honey to drown Ambrose. I just loved that little thread that he had as a murderer. I thought it was very nice touch.
He's a very much a holistic murderer. He's using all parts of the bee.
Yes.
To kill his victims.
Yes.
We have some questions on this episode.
Yeah.
Because we're used to a couple of plot holes in Midsomer Murders. There's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start off with the very first one. In the first half, Tamara finds an envelope at the hive, opens it up, and immediately calls Jude for help. For what? That is never explained.
Yeah. We don't actually see what she pulls out, but it looks like it might be the size of a photograph. My theory is that it was the photos from the night before of Ambrose and the doctor. And and that's how she knew about it, because I don't think she knew about it beforehand. But it seems like there's a scene missing.
Well, it would make sense, because then she would call Jude in, because this is a problem for both of them.
Yeah.
But we never see a single scene of them together.
Yeah.
We never see a single scene of them colluding.
Mm-hmm.
We never see them that they're working together on anything. Because I kind of feel like if they were working together, then maybe he wouldn't have been banished.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of goes to another thing. There's a scene where Jude is on the phone talking to someone, saying he won't lie for them. Don't know who that is.
Yeah.
We don't know what that's in reference to. Is this about the like Cyrus says that Jude's real alibi, he was out trying to stop this building project that would have hurt a bee colony involving, like, I guess.
Yeah, wildflower meadows, yeah.
Yeah.
That they would have.
But why would that mean he wouldn't lie for the person?
Yeah. Because he seemed kind of all in on that.
Was Cyrus a Deddington?
Who knows?
Like, there's no indication that Ambrose is acknowledging. He gives Cyrus the scepter, but there's no indication that he's giving him the scepter any more reason than just like, you're standing near me.
I think he gives him the scepter as the beekeeper, because he is a very talented beekeeper, apparently.
Yeah.
And, but obviously Jude and his mother will get the big house now.
By the way, we don't see Cyrus we don't see him handling bees.
Well, he is an actor in real life, not the bee wrangler.
Yeah. Well, and then finally, what the hell was going on with Jude and Hannah anyways? Like, they supposedly have a relationship, but they only have like 2 scenes together.
Mm-hmm.
There's clearly some kind of tension about something, but we never know what it is. And then we get that scene in the end where Hannah is being held by Tamara and going to be hurt. And Jude comes in and rescues her. And then Tamara throws out this weird accusation that Hannah and Noah are sleeping together. And Jude's acting like, is this true?
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you care?
Kind of wondering why she was like seen walking back from an airport. And
Well, it's because Jude didn't pick her up.
But yeah, Jude didn't pick her up. But she's like walking through the countryside. Wouldn't you have some point gotten like a cab or an Uber or a Lyft or something? Or called them before? She doesn't have any money. Yeah. Well.
She doesn't have any money, but it also is like, where's this airport?
Yeah, where's the airport?
Because that could be a long walk. Like that. Like I landed 2 days ago. Where were you?
Yeah. She's at Heathrow, But, did she have her phone with her? Did she have a credit card?
Why did she just keep calling Jude? Call Cyrus. He shows up.
Yeah, he would have shown up for her. Because I think he had a little crush on her, too.
Yeah, but again, it's just like...
Cyrus was the kind of the good guy in this whole thing.
He was, but he was also completely underwritten.
Yeah.
You never get a sense of who he is on his own.
No.
He's protecting his mom. He's protecting Jude. He's protecting the bees.
Yeah.
And maybe that's his role. He is the protector. But I never, like, does he want to take on the bees?
Yeah.
You know, what does he want?
Yeah.
Do you want to make me? I really hate saying meadery. That's so broy.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Reverend?
Sure.
Because I thought he was an interesting character as a really big red herring. As someone who's like physically angry, physically violent. Is he just mad that less people are going to the church?
Yeah.
Like, I was curious because there's a thing. They talk about this when they look at the doctor's schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Winter at one point says, well, she had an appointment with someone with Alzheimer's. And then I don't recall if he ever actually mentions the Reverend.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think, was the Reverend originally supposed to have Alzheimer's?
It doesn't seem like it. My dad had Alzheimer's, so
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like he has early symptoms. It just seems like he is bitter and sad because, as in many places,
he loses himself, though.
Yeah, there are fewer people who are going to church in many places. Now, I think the mom, because of her wandering, which is very much a symptom of Alzheimer's.
Yeah. It just struck me as like the mood swings, and I was like, was he supposed to be the one that had that, and then they changed it? Because we've seen these things before. Where it feels like they must have made a change at the film. Like, this doesn't work. We need to rewrite this or something.
Yeah, personally, I think it may have, the Alzheimer's patient may have intended to be Melissa, Jude's mother.
That's quite possible.
Yeah.
Hannah never asked her dad if doing yoga in the church was cool.
Which was pretty bad on her part. And I have to say, having done yoga, I don't care. Those mats are thin. Doing it on a hard stone floor in a church, that would hurt.
Yep. But when they get him bursting in irate about questionable Eastern practices and Noah's yogi gobbledygook.
I loved that. I mean, as an actor, he really sunk into that scene. I also loved the scene, and props to the cameraman on this, the scene where he chases Noah out of the church. I loved that scene too, because that was filmed so well, and you can tell that the actor had a great time with it.
Anyways, I think he's probably the most fleshed out character in this show. Tamara being, I think, sort of the second one. But he has like just his, I got a real sense of what he wanted.
Yeah.
And I kind of loved his no fool like an old fool.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not a ton of detective work. This is mostly solved in like, if they had done a background check on every person, this would have been solved in 5 minutes.
Probably, yeah.
I want to point out that Barnaby and Winter defer to the Deddingtons a lot in this, in a way that's like I did not find believable.
Yeah. Tom, when he was working with rich people, he would ever so slightly give them a little bit of space, but you always felt that space was to kind of hang themselves in some sort of way.
Yeah. But here, like, again, at the very top, right? So when the detectives go to interview Ambrose after his assault, Ambrose is like, I've got other things to do. And they just like, okay.
Yeah.
And I do not believe John for a second would have allowed that.
No. Tom definitely would have. And Ben Jones would have been Mr. Corky Hound.
Yep. And then Tamara, who is guilty of kidnapping and attempted assault.
Yeah.
Does not seem to have any consequences whatsoever.
Yeah.
She should have been in jail. She should not have been at the Solstice thing because she should have been in jail for what she did.
Yeah. That was attempted assault. Yeah.
Yeah. Like she was literally trying to scar a woman's face.
Yeah.
Like that's a felony.
Yeah.
And Winter just like, oh, well, don't do it again.
So I don't know. I don't know if maybe we don't see it, but maybe Hannah said, "Oh, don't bother. I don't want to press charges or anything." But
which
would have been an important thing to see.
Which also you don't need because Winter witnessed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the law is like in the UK. In America's, like, if a police officer witnesses a thing, you don't technically need to have someone there to press charges. Like,
Yeah.
they can just say, no, I witnessed him doing this crime.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, again, they just deferred to the detectives until the very end when Ambrose is clearly guilty of
Massive fraud.
massive fraud and letting so many people die
Yeah.
that, okay, well, I guess we'll bring him in. But we're still going to let him say goodbye to the bees and hand them the scepter. I'm like, this guy's a monster.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
So, Fleur, in our corner, God, like, she got a dad joke full of bee puns. Dad joke book full of bee puns.
That was like, okay, it was obviously like, okay, the only thing Fleur has to do in this episode is talk about the, basically info dump. So we have to give her some bee puns to give her something to do.
It was fine. It was just like,
yeah,
she just made so many of them, and I was like, I want to murder you.
Yeah.
But it was funny. Like, she's in a beekeeper outfit. She had some fun things. She got to do some fun things.
Yeah.
And then home life. So obviously the big thing here is that Sarah needed John to take yoga because he's not as flexible and can't touch his toes. And I was watching that going, boy, Sarah, if you hate it now, he really can't touch his toes now.
Yeah.
No offense to you, Neil. You're like, I'm at that age too where touching my toes is like, ow, ow, ow.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really cute when he's doing yoga with Patty.
Yeah. Yeah.
His yogi name, I guess, would be DCI Miracle.
Yeah. What's interesting is this is maybe the only time, unlike with Joyce, where someone associated with Sarah is the killer.
Yeah. I mean, and Sarah took a class.
Yeah.
I mean, you see her at the start, right? Where like she's in that village and she's like sees the doctor and the reverend like throwing the flowers in, and I was like, oh no, why is she here? Why is she? She's not supposed to be here.
I guess they don't have any yoga classes in Portston.
Yeah. Also, they had a very fancy honey pot.
Yeah. I like that honey pot. I really want that honey pot.
It was a nice honey pot, but it was like, that's fancy. How much honey do they have in there?
Yeah.
And finally, does Winter just have keys to their house? He walked right in.
Yeah.
No knocking, no doorbell, no nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, again, John should have been like, what the hell are you doing, man?
I'm sure Sarah gave him keys.
Oh. What's the final thoughts on this? The Sting of Death.
I think there's some good elements. I think there are some loose ends. I don't think this is a great episode. I think it's an okay episode. I like the bee stuff, but they rely too much on the bee puns.
Yeah. I feel like tonally it's a little bit they don't quite know. Like as we pointed out, there's a lot of bee puns, there's a lot of bee references, there's a lot of hidden bee jokes. But there's all that and like massive plot holes or massive confusion of like what's this supposed to be? To get to like a solution again that all it really required for them to kind of crack it open was do a background check on everyone, which they normally do anyways.
Yeah.
So like, why the hell did this take so long?
Yeah. Yeah. They should have caught the whole Noah Moon, Noah Lister thing really, really early. And to be honest, if they had, that would have been a more legitimate clue to the watcher. To the viewer. Part
of it is because it's structurally weird in that they don't have the first murder for 20 minutes. There's no clear sort of like, well, the two suspects throughout all of it seem to be, or the three suspects seem to be Ambrose, Jude, and Tamara, and nobody else.
They kind of, and Linda should have been a stronger suspect, but they really don't flesh her out as a suspect.
No, you find out why she's so angry at them, why she's she feels like she should be in that communist village. You know, she's we are the poor. We have been downtrodden by them. We have been written out, and my son is actually the heir.
Yeah.
You know, okay.
And that is an echo to A Tale of Two Hamlets, yeah.
Yeah.
With Anne Reid, yeah.
Even with that said, it's not a great episode. I kind of enjoyed it. It was definitely sexier in a lot of ways than a lot of Midsomer. Like, it's like this was way sexier than the sex worker episode. The femme fatale twist I thought was kind of an interesting one. But also the having him dressed up as a beekeeper costume to kill people was straight up like Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Like, why is he in the beekeeper costume at Cal's place?
Yeah.
No point.
No.
This is definitely, I think, kind of that later, it's the more recent Midsomer problem of trying to keep it weird, but keeping it weird isn't the same thing. Like Midsomer works as a mystery show with weird elements. It's not a weird show with mystery elements. And by trying to keep it like weird or make it all about one thing, it kind of, you know, loses the mystery in a way.
Yeah. And it's become a little bit predictable that the person that is not showing any signs of being a suspect is actually the killer. They're not showing any kind of guilty conscience or anything. And I call it the Archie Christie thing because Agatha Christie based a lot of her murders on her first husband after she caught him cheating. And so if you like find the Archie Christie character in one of her books, he's usually the murderer. This is kind of having that same effect with the non-suspect is the killer.
Well, with Agatha Christie too, I've always found it to be it's the person that they rule out couldn't possibly have done it, did it.
Yeah.
Like, he was on the other side of the town, suspended in a box. He couldn't have done the murder. You know, it's sort of the Columbo thing too, of like they set themselves up to they couldn't possibly be the killer.
Yeah.
But Columbo figures out how they actually did it. And yeah, there's definitely elements of that in this. But I also just feel it's like part of it was just bad character development all around on them.
Yeah, there are several characters that were underdeveloped and could have been stronger because they had some really good actors. Yeah,
and it would have given them better motives. Like the Reverend seemed like they were really trying to set up as a possible suspect. Except, why would he do any of that?
Yeah,
would he killed I guess killing the doctor and all that stuff, but he had no connection to bees.
No,
there's reasons for him to do it. But there's no, the methodology made no sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's everything we wanted to talk about. We want to thank you all for listening. If you had anything you want to discuss about the Sting of Death or Midsomer murders in general, feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. If you want to use the email on the show, just please say so in your email so we can use it. We're also Welcome to Midsomer on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. You can also find us on YouTube, where we've been slowly uploading our old episodes. Please follow us in all of these places. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing to us or rating and reviewing us on iTunes. It really helps people find us. And tell all your friends about us and Midsomer Murders as well. We're going to be back soon with a new episode, and we hope you will join us again. And as we take the road out of Midsomer, I want to thank you one more time for listening. And remind you that in Midsomer, love and bees can be murder.
And usually is, honey.
Fleur? Fleur, is that you? Welcome to Midsomer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act, various exceptions for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art was designed by Smeedrai. Our theme music is by the infamous Space. Dick had a big break when he was... That sounded so weird.